A black woman, driving a $70,000 Mercedes just after midnight. Has to be stolen! That's what Officer Derek Lawson decides, before he even hits the lights. He yanks the registration from Alicia Monroe's hand, doesn't even glance at it, crushes it in his fist, and tosses it onto the shoulder of I-8. Out of the car, hands up! She obeys, slow, deliberate movements, palms high, textbook compliance, every motion careful, like she's studied this choreography her whole life. Lawson clamps his hand around her shoulder and slams her into the door. The thud echoes off the concrete barrier. Her wool coat snags on the handle, fabric tearing with a sharp rip. "This ride isn't yours," he mutters, breath hot against her neck. "You stole it." "That's a mistake," she says, voice soft but steady. "Sure it is, sweetheart." He cranks her arm behind her back. The cuffs ratchet down too tight, metal biting skin. "They all say that," he chuckles, ugly and pleased with himself. His partner laughs along, like they've done this routine before. Alicia doesn't fight, doesn't raise her voice, doesn't beg. "By tomorrow morning," she says evenly, like she's reading a docket, "you'll be staring at black robes. Your knees are going to buckle." Lawson snorts. "Lady, this is my car. The registration checks out. I'm Judge Alicia Monroe, Fulton County Superior Court. You can confirm my identity through dispatch." Lawson actually laughs, big, full-bodied, like she just delivered a killer punchline, not a hint of doubt. "That's creative," he says, shaking his head. "I'll give you that, Judge. Haven't heard that one yet." A second cruiser glides up, lights spinning, siren off. Sergeant Michelle Vargas steps out. Late 40s, 2 decades on the job. Her eyes sweep the scene automatically. The Mercedes, the ripped designer coat, Alicia's precise diction, the absence of panic. Everything gets catalogued in one controlled breath. Vargas walks toward Lawson, boots crunching on gravel. "You sure about this?" she murmurs, low enough to pretend Alicia can't hear. "I'm sure," he replies, confidence sharp. "Trust me." Vargas nods once, slow. "Then do it by the book, and document every step. Translation, cover yourself, make it stick." Alicia watches them confer, files their body language away. These two have a pattern, a script. "May I call my husband?" she asks, tone measured, not pleading. "He's an attorney. You'll get your phone call at the station, like everybody else," Lawson says, bored. 15 feet back, another officer leans against his patrol car. Officer Jason O'Reilly, 29, not even a year out of the academy. His dash cam has been rolling since he pulled up 3 minutes earlier, capturing everything. He stays on the periphery, hand resting on his belt, face neutral in the flashing lights. But his silence rings in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Alicia notices him, locks eyes for a split second. He looks away too fast, like her gaze burns. She knows that look. She's seen it from young prosecutors, rookie public defenders, jurors in over their heads, moral unease with no idea how to act on it. Vargas approaches Alicia now, flashlight beam straight in her face, examining her like evidence. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us to the station," Vargas says. "You can straighten everything out there." "Straighten what out?" Alicia asks. "The car is registered to me. The documents are valid. What crime am I being arrested for?" "Suspicion of driving a stolen vehicle," Lawson answers, voice too confident, too pleased. "And we'll be adding impersonating a public official." He's stacking charges in real time, inflating a traffic stop into something bigger. Alicia stops arguing. There's no win here. On the shoulder of a freeway, 3 officers, cars flying past at 70. She'll let daylight argue for her. Lawson returns to his cruiser, drops into the seat, and starts punching in her information. License number, plate, VIN. His fingers drum the steering wheel while he waits, impatience simmering. The radio finally crackles. "Unit 34, this is dispatch." Female voice, level, professional. "Georgia registration, Charlie Mike 5543, comes back valid, registered to Alicia Monroe, Buckhead address. Clean record, no warrants, no stolen reports. You're clear to proceed. Lawson stares at the screen, jaw tightening. The data doesn't match his expectations, the narrative he'd already written in his head. Vargas leans down at his window. What did it say? Clean, Lawson answers. But something's still off. Vargas nods slowly. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong, write it up. Process her anyway. We'll figure it out at the station. In the back of Lawson's cruiser, Alicia sits behind the plastic partition, hands cuffed, shoulders cramped. She heard every word from dispatch. Crystal clear through the radio. They know the car is hers, they know it isn't stolen, but they're pushing ahead. Alicia's fear fades, replaced by something sharper. Strategy. She shifts her shoulders against the rigid seat, thinking in motions of cross-examination, rules of evidence. Lawson steps out, walks to the Mercedes, opens the passenger door. Inventory search, he mutters, as if repeating a spell. Legal grey area. He does it anyway. On the seat, her leather briefcase. Expensive, embossed initials AM. He flips it open. Court filings, motions, rulings, business cards with her name. Letterhead stamped Fulton County Superior Court. Everything crisp, official, impossible to miss. He riffles through, barely reading. A tabbed folder bears a case number. State v. Lawson. His brain slides right over it. Lawson is a common enough name. He refuses to connect the dots. Ego won't allow it. Vargas appears at the window. You find anything? Lawson holds up one of the cards. She's carrying fake judge rights, he says. Nice work. High-quality printing. Vargas rubs the card between her fingers, feels the raised seal, skims the text. Book her for impersonating a public official, she says. That's a felony. Alicia's voice drifts from the back seat, measured but edged with steel. Officer Lawson, I strongly recommend you verify my identity with the courthouse before you go any further. This will not end how you think it will. Lawson snaps the briefcase shut and stalks back to the driver's seat. They all try this, he mutters to Vargas. Fancy car, forged credentials, some boyfriend lawyer feeding them lines. Vargas nods. Just make sure your report is airtight. Details matter. Behind them, O'Reilly shifts his weight from one foot to the other, nerves leaking through small movements. His dashcam is still rolling, documenting every order, every shove, every contemptuous laugh. He hasn't intervened, but he's seen it all. Alicia watches him in the side mirror. The way he physically separates himself from Lawson and Vargas, orbiting but never joining, not helping, not stopping, but bearing witness. She files that away with everything else. Lawson starts the engine, pulls the cruiser onto I-85, headed toward the precinct. Vargas follows. O'Reilly's car closes the convoy. 3 vehicles, lights pulsing, sirens off. The 15-minute ride passes in heavy silence. Alicia keeps her mouth shut, saving every ounce of energy. She doesn't invoke her rights, doesn't threaten lawsuits or call in favors. She's playing a longer game. Eyes closed, she runs through statute numbers, disciplinary procedures, evidentiary rules. She knows that arguing inside a squad car only feeds their narrative, so she waits. Lawson pulls into the station's sally port. Vargas parks beside him. O'Reilly pulls in last. Still quiet, still tracking every detail like he can't look away, like the images will haunt him later. Inside, Lieutenant Harold Benton sits at the booking desk. 54, Night Watch Commander by seniority and habit. He skims paperwork and glances at computer screens, multitasking with practiced disinterest. You run her through the system? Benton asks, automatic. Came back clean, Lawson says. But the vehicle profile fits what we've been seeing. Luxury car, late hour, nervous behavior. Benton doesn't dig further. He signs where Lawson's finger points. Doesn't ask follow-up questions. Doesn't verify anything. Book her, process her. Day shift can untangle it. Benton says, already moving on. That's all it takes. One lazy signature. No scrutiny. And Alicia's night spirals deeper. Fingerprints, mugshot, property inventory done, by procedure. Her phone, purse, keys, all labeled and stuffed into a manila envelope, along with pieces of her dignity. They guide her down a concrete hallway to a holding cell. Cinder block walls, one metal bench, stainless steel toilet in the corner. Another woman already occupies the bench, drunk and disorderly, sprawled out and snoring. Alicia settles on the opposite end, still wearing her $800 coat, posture straight, expression contained. The door slams shut with a metallic crash that reverberates down the corridor. She doesn't flinch. When they finally offer her one phone call, it's in the corridor at a wall phone, an officer hovering nearby to monitor. She dials a number she knows better than any case citation. Her husband answers on the second ring. Marcus Monroe, corporate lawyer. Sharp, but not criminal side. Marcus, listen carefully, she says, voice low, steady as if calming a witness. Don't ask questions. Don't come to the station. Don't call anyone. The supervising officer watches her, expression blank. Meet me at the courthouse tomorrow, 8:30 a.m., outside my courtroom. I'll explain then. Just trust me. Silence on his end. Tension crackling through the line. Are you safe? He finally asks. I will be, she answers. I love you. She hangs up before he can say more, before his worry weakens her resolve. Back in the cell, she resumes her spot on the bench. The drunk woman keeps snoring. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. The toilet drips in lazy intervals. Alicia closes her eyes again, not in defeat, but with calculated patience. She's preserving her anger, letting it sharpen into something useful. At his desk in another room, Lawson finishes typing his arrest report. His confidence has only grown, bolstered by Benton's signature and Vargas's backing. He uploads his body cam file to the evidence server, then clicks a familiar box. Equipment malfunction, audio only. The video didn't fail. He killed it on purpose, the way officers sometimes do when they don't want the whole story recorded. What he doesn't know, the audio kept rolling. He never checked the settings. Every word out of his mouth is preserved. The dismissive jokes, the assumptions, the contempt. Lawson closes the report, logs out, and heads home believing the night is wrapped. Another arrest, another suspicious driver handled. He sleeps well, convinced he did his job. The file sits on his desk, the system already moving the paperwork along. Another black woman in custody. Another expensive car. Another narrative confirmed in his mind. Except this time, his judgment is disastrously wrong. The arrest report will be read. The footage will be watched. The lies and omissions will be dragged into light. But not tonight. Tonight, Lawson snores in his bed while Alicia stares at concrete. At 6:00 a.m., a day shift sergeant she doesn't recognize appears at the cell door. Different face, different posture, no context. You're released pending review by the district attorney. He drones. Sign here for your property. Routine words, delivered like he's reading a grocery list. Alicia signs, reclaiming her phone, battery dead, her purse, her keys. Her dignity filters back piece by piece, but she knows it will never be fully intact again. She steps into the cold morning air, breath clouding. No call to Marcus, no request for a ride. She plans to drive herself. Out back, the Mercedes sits in the impound lot. They processed it but didn't keep it. No stolen vehicle report, no basis to hold it, just inconvenience masquerading as procedure. She unlocks the car and slides in, noticing fresh scrapes near the door handle. Faint lines where metal cuffs scraped paint when Lawson shoved her. Small visible scars, physical proof. She files that under exhibits in her mind. The drive home along I-85 feels almost surreal. Same stretch of asphalt, same exit, different version of her behind the wheel. At her Buckhead 2-story, Marcus's car is already in the driveway. He didn't sleep either. He's been waiting for dawn. The front door opens before she reaches the steps. Relief washes over his face, chased immediately by anger and confusion. Liz, what the hell happened? He blurts. You sounded... Not now, she cuts in, brushing past him. I need a shower and a change of clothes. Then I'll talk. She trudges upstairs, peels off everything that smells like disinfectant and stale air. The hot water scorches her skin, but she doesn't turn it down. She scrubs until her fingers wrinkle. She dries off, steps into her closet, and reaches for the familiar black fabric hanging at eye level. Judicial robes. Heavy, lined, carrying a different sort of weight. She lays them across the bed and stares at them. This isn't just clothing. It's armor, authority, a reminder of who she is outside a cell. She dresses in professional attire first, suits up the way she would for any significant hearing, every piece chosen with surgical precision. Downstairs, Marcus waits in the kitchen, 2 mugs of coffee already poured. He knows better than to push now. He's seen this version of her before, gearing up for difficult trials. She comes in with her robes folded over one arm, hair pulled back, face composed. She takes a sip of coffee, then finally meets his eyes. "Last night, Officer Derek Lawson arrested me while I was driving my own car," she says. "He claimed it was stolen." Marcus's face cycles through disbelief, then fury, then calculation. "Dispatch confirmed the car is mine," Alicia continues. "He arrested me anyway, and then he added a charge for impersonating a judge." "We sue," Marcus says immediately. "Section 1983, false arrest, civil rights violations. I can start drafting." "No," she says, voice cutting through his momentum. Firm, final. "Alicia," he protests, "they threw you in a cell. That's—" "I know exactly what it is." She sets her cup down. "But I'm not going to start with a lawsuit. I'm dealing with this my way. Meet me at the courthouse at 8:45, main courtroom. You'll understand." He studies her expression, recognizes it. Trial face, strategy face. The one juries never see but opposing counsel fears. "What are you planning?" he asks quietly. "Justice," she answers. She glances at her watch. 7:30 a.m., an hour and 15 minutes until court, until Lawson's hearing, his excessive force case. The one she's had on her docket for 3 weeks. The one she reread yesterday afternoon, minutes before leaving chambers. The reason she was driving home late enough to be pulled over at midnight. The irony isn't lost on her. She finishes her coffee, gathers her briefcase, the same one Lawson rummaged through, still holding his case file with his name on it. "I'll see you at the courthouse," she says, kissing Marcus's cheek. "Trust me." He nods, still bewildered but unwilling to argue with the steel in her voice. Alicia drives downtown, parks in the reserved judicial lot, and slips through the side entrance instead of the main doors. No hallway chatter, no lingering colleagues. She doesn't want to explain anything yet. In chambers, she locks the door and sits at her desk. The case file is already there. State of Georgia v. Derek Lawson. She's read it 3 times. She opens it a 4th. 17-year-old black teenager, Deshaun Miller. Routine stop. That escalated. Lawson's knee driven into the boy's back. Force clearly disproportionate on paper. Complaints of a pattern. Prior incidents that never quite stuck. She reads it now with fresh eyes, not just as a judge weighing credibility, but as someone recently shoved into a car door by the same officer. She realizes she's no longer just the presiding authority. She's also evidence. The newest data point in an existing pattern. Her phone buzzes. Text from her bailiff. "Courtroom ready. Party's arriving." She stands, lifts her robes and slides them on, smoothing the fabric over her shoulders. In the small office mirror, she checks her reflection. The woman staring back looks composed, professional, untouched by a night in holding. But beneath the collar, beneath the calm expression, a cold fury pulses, patient, methodical. She's minutes away from walking into that courtroom and seeing Lawson again. He's not expecting her. He has no idea. None. She picks up her gavel, feeling its solid weight in her palm, a physical reminder of authority, of discretion, of power that doesn't need raised voices. She doesn't call a civil rights lawyer. She doesn't need one yet. She is the bench those lawyers stand before. In 15 minutes, Officer Derek Lawson is going to learn, in excruciating detail, what that actually means. 48 hours earlier, none of this chain of events had begun. 2 days earlier, before the arrest, before any of these threads intertwined, Officer Jason O'Reilly stood at attention on a different stage, Police Academy graduation. Rows of pressed uniforms, shiny badges, proud families crammed into folding chairs, clapping at every speech. The air smelled like starch, cheap cologne, and promise. Jason's shoulders ached from holding perfect posture, but he didn't dare slouch. His name had finally been called. He was officially a cop. His father stood beside him afterward. First-generation immigrant from Ireland who arrived 35 years ago with nothing but a duffel bag and a job lead in construction. He'd built a company from scratch, put 3 kids through college, and wore his pride in his son like an extra layer of clothing. But beneath the pride, Alicia would have recognized something else in his eyes. Unease. "You became a cop so people like us would feel safe, yeah?" his father said, accent still thick. Jason nodded, not fully understanding the lifetime of stories behind those words. "Good," his father continued. "Then be the kind of officer we needed when we came here, not the kind we were scared of. Promise me that." Jason promised, the words feeling noble and distant, like something from a commencement speech. He didn't grasp the weight yet. The way that promise would wrap around his throat 2 nights later, squeezing while he watched Lawson shove a judge into a car. Present night, 2:00 a.m., same shift as Alicia's arrest. Jason sits alone in the locker room, exhausted but wired beyond sleep. The images replay every time he shuts his eyes. He pulls out his personal tablet and accesses the transfer from his dash cam. Policy allows officers to review footage to finalize reports. He hits play. The Mercedes appears on screen, spotlight flaring, Lawson striding up to the window already wound tight, already acting like the verdict is in. Jason watches Alicia's hands on the steering wheel. High, visible, fingers spread. Compliance perfection. Documents handed over neatly, no fumbling, no hesitation. Lawson barely looks before escalating, voice hard. Jason notices the timestamp when Lawson cuffs her, before dispatch finishes running the plate. Protocol says you wait for confirmation before an arrest. Lawson didn't. Jason replays that sequence 3 more times, searching for any justification he missed. There isn't one. This wasn't a close call. It was simply wrong. The next morning's 7:00 a.m. briefing arrives whether he's ready or not. Jason shows up early, clutching coffee he won't drink. The room fills as the night crew drifts out and day shift files in. He hears Lawson and Vargas talking in low voices by the far wall, like the night before was just another routine shift. "Internal Affairs might sniff around that arrest," Vargas says, casual, like she's commenting on the weather. "Just paperwork. Don't sweat it. Let them." Lawson replies, pouring creamer. "I followed training. She matched the profile. Nice car, late, jumpy." Vargas nods. "Be specific in your write-up. Furtive movements, suspicious behavior, use the right language. You know how this goes." Jason freezes, cup halfway to his mouth. They're not recounting what happened. They're rehearsing a story, tailoring words to fit policy buzz phrases. This is practiced. This is systemic. His father's warning stomps back through his head, louder than any siren. Jason drops his untouched coffee into the trash and walks out without a word. In his patrol car, he sits gripping the steering wheel in the same position he saw Alicia on screen, knuckles pale. A student loan notice sits folded on his dashboard, $842 due. His paycheck barely stretches between that, rent, and the payments on his father's back surgery from last year. He needs this job. 8 months in, he's still probationary. They can cut him loose for almost anything. But the video won't stop playing in his mind. His father's voice won't fade. "Be the officer we needed, not the one we feared." Jason starts the engine, not to respond to calls, but to drive to a different building across town. Internal Affairs. Separate parking lot, separate entrance, separate culture. 8:15 a.m. He sits in his car outside, muscles tight, arguing with himself. If he goes inside, there's no rewind. If he doesn't, he'll never look in a mirror the same way again. He finally steps out, walks in. Detective Simone Harris sits behind a desk stacked with files. 18 years in internal affairs. She has heard every excuse, every carefully crafted explanation. Cynicism lives in her posture, but so does a tired kind of fairness. She glances up. "Officer O'Reilly?" she says, recognizing his name tag. 8 months in, right? What brings you here? Jason doesn't sit. He stands in the doorway, 1 foot in the hall, 1 in her office, still half ready to bolt. "I witnessed something last night," he says. "Traffic stop on I-85. Officer Lawson, I believe there was misconduct." Harris's gaze sharpens. "You believe or you know?" Jason swallows. "I have dash cam footage. Let me see it." Her tone stays calm, but the air tightens. "Can this be anonymous?" he asks. Harris leans back, studies him, recognizing the fear and the moral tug-of-war. She's seen it before, officers caught between conscience and career. "We have a confidential digital drop," she says. "Upload the file. Include time, location. I'll handle the rest." Jason nods, hands trembling slightly as he pulls out his tablet. Using the guest Wi-Fi, he uploads the video and adds a short note. "Traffic stop 11, 23:43 hours, I-85 mile marker 52. Officer Lawson, possible misconduct. My conscience won't let this go." He presses send, watches the progress bar crawl. 90%, 95, 100. Harris's computer chimes with a new file. She opens it immediately. The footage fills her screen. Alicia under the harsh spotlight, perfectly compliant. Lawson, aggressive from the first step. Vargas, backing his decisions. Harris's jaw tightens as she scrubs through the timeline. She pauses when Alicia's face is illuminated enough to see clearly. Zooms in. Recognition hits all at once. "Officer O'Reilly," she says, voice different now, more urgent. "Do you know who this woman is?" "No, Mom," Jason replies. "Should I?" Harris hesitates, weighing how much to reveal. "You will," she finally says. "So will everyone else, very soon." Harris stands, checks the hallway to make sure no one is hovering. "You did the right thing coming here," she tells him. "This stays confidential. Go back to your shift. Act like nothing happened. Do not talk about this with anyone. Understood?" "Yes, Ma'am." "O'Reilly," she adds, stopping him at the door. "Your conscience did you credit today. Don't let this place grind that down." He nods and leaves. Jason returns to his cruiser, hands still shaking as he keys in his login. Adrenaline and dread collide in his chest. He spends the day running routine calls, writing minor tickets, responding to noise complaints, all while pretending his world hasn't tilted. Every radio crackle sounds louder. Every glance from another officer feels suspicious, even though no one knows yet. He's done the right thing, he tells himself. It may cost him his career, but he did it anyway. Back in her office, Harris locks the door and restarts the footage, this time taking detailed notes. She documents Alicia's calm compliance, the timeline of events, Lawson cuffing her before dispatch clearance, Vargas's guidance, every deviation from procedure. She captures screenshots, logs timestamps, documents chain of custody for the file. She's built cases like this for nearly 2 decades, against officers who thought policy was a suggestion. But this is different. This isn't just any civilian on the tape. This is a sitting superior court judge, a judge who was arrested hours before presiding over Lawson's own excessive force case. Harris knows instantly this will explode. She opens a new case file in the system, flags it priority and confidential, and then picks up her phone. She bypasses layers of bureaucracy. "Captain Avery," she says when he answers. "It's Harris. We need to talk this morning before 9. It's urgent." She hears his groggy sip of coffee over the line. "How urgent?" he asks. "The kind that ends careers," she replies. "And it involves Judge Alicia Monroe." Silence stretches out, longer this time. "I'll be there in 20, he says. Harris hangs up and starts outlining her report. Then she makes another call, this one to the chief of police directly, skipping protocol for the second time in 10 minutes. "Chief Dalton, it's Harris. You need to be in courtroom 3 at 9 o'clock a.m. Don't ask questions. Just come and bring your phone." The chief starts to respond, but Harris ends the call before she can object. In 3 hours, Lawson will walk into Alicia's courtroom in full dress uniform, thinking he's prepared to defend himself against one excessive force allegation. He has no clue that internal affairs is already in motion, that his captain and the chief will be sitting quietly in the gallery, that every word he said during that traffic stop is now evidence. The walls are shifting, and he doesn't feel it yet. At 8:30 a.m., in a modest ranch house out in the suburbs, Lawson straightens his tie in a foggy bathroom mirror. Mortgage paperwork sits on the kitchen counter. Another bill due soon. He just finished showering, razor burn on his neck, adrenaline humming. Today is big, but he tells himself he's ready. Dress blues pressed, shoes polished, badge gleaming. His phone buzzes on the counter. Text from his attorney, David Klein, who handles a lot of cop defense work. Judge hasn't changed, Klein writes. Monroe's known for being fair but tough. Stay professional. Stick to the script. Lawson texts back while knotting his tie. No problem. Had a weird stop last night, though. Woman claimed she was a judge. Can you believe that? Tried every line in the book. He chuckles at his own message, amused. He grabs his keys, glances once more at his reflection, and decides he looks like the kind of officer juries trust instantly. His phone buzzes again as he heads for the door. Klein. What was her name? Lawson frowns, trying to recall. He types one-handed. Monroe, I think. Yeah. Alicia Monroe. Whole briefcase full of fake judge stuff. Honestly impressive forgery. He hits send and steps outside, locking the door behind him, still oblivious. In his office downtown, Klein stares at the text, heartbeat kicking up. He knows that name. He's stood in her courtroom twice this year. Argued in front of her. Judge Alicia Monroe. Tough on sloppy procedure. Zero patience for officers who play casual with rights. Klein's gaze drifts to the case file on his desk. State for Derek Lawson. Trial in 30 minutes. Judge Alicia Monroe. His client arrested his own judge 10 hours before she's scheduled to rule on his use of force. Klein sinks into his chair, rubbing his forehead. Every instinct screams that this is catastrophic. He picks up his phone, thumb hovering over Lawson's contact. He could call. He could warn Lawson, give him time to brace, to at least walk into the courtroom knowing what he's facing. But then Klein thinks of Alicia on the bench. Measured, no nonsense. With the record. He thinks of public perception, of his own reputation, of how this will look when everything surfaces. Slowly he lowers the phone. He doesn't make the call. Professional calculus wins out over loyalty. The morning rolls on toward 9 o'clock a.m. regardless. At the courthouse, the gallery begins to fill. Clerks, a few reporters sensing something in the air, family members of prior defendants who wander in out of habit. Harris slips quietly into the back row. Notebook already open, eyes tracking everyone. Captain Avery arrives a minute later, expression tight, taking a seat beside her. Chief Dalton comes in plain clothes, sliding into the row behind them, phone in hand, just like Harris said. None of them announce why they're there. In the hallway, Marcus stands by the courtroom doors, watching attorneys file in and out. He doesn't fully understand what Alicia plans to do, but he trusts the way she walked out of the house. Focused. Unshakable. Jason O'Reilly stands near the back wall, assigned to courthouse duty for the day. Uniform crisp, nerves frayed. He spots Lawson down the hall, walking toward the courtroom. Shoulders back, face confident. Lawson doesn't see him. Jason wonders how that confidence will look in 10 minutes. Inside chambers, Alicia takes one final breath, steadying herself. She smooths her robes, checks the day's docket on her screen, then closes it. The night's humiliation and rage sit in her chest, but she refuses to let them dictate her tone. Emotion without control doesn't win cases, it undermines them. She straightens her spine, picks up her gavel and case file, and walks toward the door. The hallway noise softens as she steps out, every eye turning to follow her path. The bailiff calls, "All rise," as she enters the courtroom. The room stands. Lawson, at counsel table with Klein, looks up and freezes. Recognition hits him a half-second too late to hide it. Alicia ascends to the bench, robes flowing, expression unreadable. She sits, sets the file in front of her, and glances once at the gallery. Harris, Avery, Dalton, Marcus, Jason, all there, all watching. Alicia lifts the gavel and brings it down, the sharp rap echoing. Court is now in session. For the first time since last night, Alicia feels the full force of her position settle around her. She isn't in a cell, or on a shoulder of asphalt, or arguing with an officer who refuses to listen. She's where the law speaks loudest, on the record, under oath, in a room where procedure is not optional. She opens the file labeled State of Georgia vs. Derek Lawson. The irony is no longer just cosmic. It's officially part of the court calendar. At his table, Lawson's mind races, replaying his midnight arrest of the woman now staring down from the bench. Klein shifts uneasily, suddenly regretting the text he never sent. Jason stands at the back of the courtroom, heart pounding, knowing his dash cam footage sits in Harris's secure folder, waiting. Marcus sits in the gallery, jaw set, watching his wife step fully into the role of judge and witness. None of them quite knows how this hearing will unfold. Klein's phone vibrates once on the table, a silent reminder of the text thread with Lawson. He doesn't look at it. He stares straight ahead, lips pressed together. He had the chance to warn his client, to give him even a few minutes of preparation for the collision that's about to happen between last night's arrest and this morning's trial, but he didn't. He made his calculation, chose his silence, and now, like everyone else in the room, he waits. If Klein calls Lawson right now, it could look like coaching a witness, maybe even obstruction. Better to walk into that courtroom cold and see the damage with his own eyes. He locks his phone, slides it into his pocket, grabs his files, and heads out. 8:15 a.m., Internal Affairs. Detective Simone Harris fires off an email to Captain Avery. Urgent. Request immediate hold on Lawson hearing until briefing. Evidence of serious misconduct night before trial. Strongly advise your presence in court. Avery reads it, checks the clock, 45 minutes to go, and dials her instantly. How bad is it? He asks. We talking suspension or more? End of career bad. Harris answers. And possibly criminal exposure. Captain, Judge Monroe is the victim. Silence. Avery processes the fallout. Press, lawsuits, federal attention. Jesus. All right, I'll be there. Don't warn him. I want to see how he reacts when it hits. Wasn't planning to. Harris says. We'll need that reaction on record. Consciousness of guilt. Avery shrugs on his jacket and clears his morning. 8:45 a.m. Main courthouse entrance. Lawson parks in the public lot, leaves his weapon and badge locked in the trunk, and walks through security like every other cop testifying. Colleagues line the hallway outside various courtrooms, waiting on their own cases. They clap him on the shoulder, murmur variations of, "You got this," and "You did nothing wrong." Lawson believes them. He tells himself he followed his training. The kid, in his case, resisted. Everything went according to the manual. Defense attorney David Klein arrives a few minutes later, spots Lawson sitting on the bench outside courtroom 3, and walks over, briefcase in hand, face carefully blank. "Blake," he starts, low voice, "about that woman you pulled over last night." The bailiff swings open the courtroom doors. "All rise. The Honorable Judge Alicia Monroe presiding." Lawson steps through, still talking, eyes on his notes instead of the bench. The side door opens. The judge's entrance. 3 stairs up to the seat of authority. Lawson finally glances up. Time doesn't slow, it just crashes. Recognition slams into him like a head-on collision. His pupils flare. He blinks once, twice, like maybe the image will reset. It doesn't. Color drains from his face so fast he looks almost gray. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. His throat locks. The briefcase slips from his hand and smacks the floor hard, the echo bouncing off wood paneling. Heads swivel toward him. His knees suddenly feel boneless, joints turned to water. Gravity tilts sideways. He pitches forward. His right hand shoots out, slamming onto counsel table, fingers clamping around the edge. White knuckles. Drowning man grabbing the last solid thing in reach. His left hand clutches at his chest, bunching the fabric like he's holding himself together. He can't pull in a full breath, only short, ragged gulps. Cold sweat beads along his hairline. Klein grabs his elbow, fingers biting down, anchoring him. "Sit," Klein mutters through clenched teeth. "Now." Lawson collapses into the chair, not lowering himself, but falling. The metal legs screech across the floor, drawing more eyes. Every single person in the room watches him unravel. The bailiff, older and unflappable, steps forward. "Sir, you all right? Need medical." He's already mentally triaging. Panic attack, heart issue, guilt. We can call EMS. Lawson shakes his head too fast, almost violent, trying to form words and failing, still clamped onto the table. Up on the bench, Alicia takes her seat with deliberate care, arranging files, straightening her nameplate, adjusting her water glass. Every small movement is intentional. She still doesn't look at Lawson. That's the point. Make him wait. Make him feel it. The gallery hums with whispers, a low ripple that spreads from row to row. What's wrong with him? Is he sick? Did something happen? In the back, Captain Avery sits with his phone held low, recording. Beside him, Harris does the same. Two angles of the same collapse. Two perspectives for the IA case file. At last, Alicia lifts her gaze. Her eyes settle on Lawson, pinning him there for 3 long, glacier-slow seconds. No blink, no flinch, just pure frozen focus. He can't hold it. His eyes drop immediately to the table, to his trembling hands, to the blur of his own notes. "Counsel," Alicia says, voice calm and lethal. "Does your client require medical attention? We can recess for 10 minutes if necessary." Klein rises, one hand still on Lawson's shoulder, literally keeping him upright. "No, Your Honor," he lies smoothly. "We're prepared to move forward." Better to fake composure than admit his client is physically falling apart just seeing the judge. "Very well," Alicia says. She looks over the courtroom. "Good morning. This is case number 2024 CR 842, State of Georgia versus Derek Lawson, involving allegations of excessive force from May 14th, 2024. Before we proceed, I must put something on the record." The word disclosure hits Lawson like another punch to the ribs. His head snaps up, eyes wide again. Panic rises fresh, hot. Assistant DA Lauren Price, young, sharp, folder already open, takes a step toward the podium. "Ready when the court is, Your Honor." I said," Alicia replies, razor edge in her tone. "I have a disclosure to make first, counsel. Please sit." Lauren hesitates, baffled, then sinks back into her chair, glancing between judge and defendant. Everyone is confused except the handful who already know the story. Klein, Lawson, Avery, Harris. They understand exactly what is about to detonate. The room goes silent. The kind of silence where you can actually hear someone's uneven breathing. Lawson's breaths rasp loud, almost wheezing. Klein leans down, mouth close to his client's ear. "Whatever comes out of her mouth next, do not speak," he whispers. "Not a single word. Got it?" Lawson can't get his tongue around yes, so he gives a jerky nod. Alicia rests both palms flat on the bench, fingers spread, and for a moment doesn't say anything. The entire courtroom seems to hold its breath with her. She earned this pause, paid for it with plastic cuffs, steel benches, fluorescent lights that never dim. She owns every heartbeat in the room now. She looks at Lawson again and sees him crumbling, hands shaking, shoulders hunched, pupils blown wide. Good, she thinks. Cold. Let him sit in that. Let him taste what he dished out when he thought I was powerless. Then she speaks. "Last night, at approximately 11:43 p.m., I was stopped on Interstate 85, near mile marker 52, by Officer Derek Lawson. I was subsequently arrested for suspected auto theft and for allegedly impersonating a public official. I was held in custody until approximately 6:00 a.m. this morning and released without charges." The room detonates in gasps and whispers. Heads whip back and forth between bench and defense table. Lauren's jaw literally drops. She turns slowly to stare at Lawson, realization flickering across her face. Klein exhales through his nose, long and slow. He knew it was bad. He hadn't realized it was this outrageous. Lawson stares at this grain of the table, frozen. Alicia's tone doesn't waver. "The Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct, Canon 3, requires that I disclose any personal interaction with parties appearing before me that could create an appearance of bias or conflict. I have now made that disclosure fully and on the record." She lets that hang in the air. Every attorney in this room starts running through possible motions in their head. Then she continues calmly, "I am not recusing myself." Klein shoots to his feet because he has to. It's textbook. "Your Honor, with the utmost respect, that creates an obvious appearance of impropriety. The defendant arrested you mere hours ago. This court must— Counselor. Alicia interrupts, voice firm but even. Your client unlawfully arrested me roughly 10 hours ago based on racial profiling and clear procedural violations. If anything, I am compelled to be more meticulous in ensuring a fair proceeding. My ruling will rest solely on the evidence and arguments presented here today. Nothing more. Klein weighs his options in a heartbeat. Pushing this fight makes his client look terrified of a fair hearing. Understood, Your Honor, he says finally. We respect the court's decision. Good, Alicia replies. Then we proceed. Opening statements. She nods toward the state's table. Miss Price, you may begin. She lifts her water glass, hand steady as stone, and takes a measured sip. She's not here for revenge. She's here to make the record bulletproof. That's worse for Lawson. Revenge can be attacked as emotional. A clean, careful process is almost impossible to overturn. Lauren steps to the lectern, reorients her notes, and adjusts her voice to the new weight of the case. Your Honor, the state will show that on May 14, 2024, Officer Lawson used unreasonable and excessive force during a traffic stop involving 18-year-old Deshawn Miller. She plays Lawson's earlier body cam clip on the big monitor. Different night, same personality. Aggressive tone, escalating commands. Deshawn on the pavement with Lawson's knee digging into his back far longer than necessary. The kid's voice cracks as he insists he's complying, hands visible, not resisting. Deshawn eventually takes the stand. Still baby-faced, suit too big, eyes nervous but honest. I was reaching for my registration like he told me, he says. He yanked open my door and dragged me out. I didn't fight him. I was scared out of my mind. On cross, Klein does exactly what defense lawyers do. Questions perception, suggests split-second decision-making, leans hard on officer safety and training for furtive movements. Deshawn holds his ground. I wasn't sneaking around, he says quietly. I was shaking because I thought I might die right there on the side of the road. Alicia listens to both sides, familiar phrases stacking up in exactly the pattern she's seen in too many transcripts. Something in her posture shifts. She leans forward slightly. Ms. Price, she says, I'd like to explore the defendant's broader conduct. She looks over her glasses. Does the state have information about similar incidents involving Officer Lawson? Lauren hesitates. We have records of prior complaints, Your Honor, but they were closed by supervisors before reaching— I'm not asking about how the complaints were resolved. Alicia cuts in. I want to know about the underlying stops and arrests, documented encounters. Lauren nods slowly. We can subpoena that, but we'll need— The rear doors of this courtroom open with a soft creak. Detective Harris walks down the aisle, carrying a sealed folder and a flash drive. Every eye follows her. Detective Harris, Internal Affairs, Alicia says. State your purpose for the record. Your Honor, Internal Affairs received fresh evidence within the last 24 hours regarding an incident involving Officer Lawson. Harris says, voice steady. It demonstrates a pattern of behavior directly relevant to these proceedings. I have video, audio, and an initial analysis. Klein jumps up. Your Honor, this is completely irregular. We haven't had discovery. No chance to— Counsel, Alicia says. This event occurred 10 hours ago. Discovery wasn't possible. I'm admitting it as pattern evidence under my discretion. Your objection is noted for the record, she adds. Klein sits, knowing he's powerless to stop what's coming. Harris hands a USB to Lauren. Dashcam from Officer Jason O'Reilly's unit. She explains. Timestamp, 23:43 hours last night. Lauren plugs it in. The screen flickers to show the Mercedes pulled over, spotlight blazing. Subject vehicle, Mercedes E-Class. Harris narrates. Driver immediately places both hands on the wheel. Listen closely and observe the sequence. The footage runs. Alicia's own face appears in the harsh light, posture controlled, hands high. Lawson strides up, already hostile. The registration exchange, the paper tossed aside. The sudden grab, the twist against the door. From the gallery there's a collective intake of breath. People recognize the judge, their judge, being treated like a suspect who doesn't matter. Vargas shows up on camera, endorsing the arrest with a nod. O'Reilly stands in the background, rigid, recording. From the bench, Alicia's voice stays almost clinical. "That is me," she says, at approximately 11:43 p.m. last night. Note the timestamp. You can see me hand over registration as soon as it's requested. The document is visible, illuminated, clearly valid. Note also the absence of any resistance or threatening movement. The room breaks into chattering disbelief, people twisting in their seats to talk. The bailiff shouts for order, pounding his staff until the noise dies down. Lawson's skin flushes from grey to blotchy red. Sweat beads along his temple. He leans toward Klein, whispering something frantic. Klein stares straight ahead, jaw tight. He can't undo this. "Your Honor," Harris continues, "Officer Lawson claims his body cam malfunctioned during this stop. Our review shows the video feed was disabled manually, but audio recording continued. With the court's permission, play it," Alicia says. The courtroom speakers crackle to life. Lawson's voice fills the room, unmistakable. "People like you always think you can drive cars like this," he sneers on the recording. "I know exactly what I'm looking at." Alicia's recorded voice responds, even and polite. "Officer, this is my vehicle. I'm Judge Alicia Monroe with Fulton County Superior Court. You can confirm that with dispatch." Lawson laughs on the tape. "Sure you are. That's cute. And I'm the president." Then Vargas's voice. "Process her fully. Document everything." Lawson again. "She fits the profile. Fancy car. Late at night. Black woman behind the wheel. We both know how this goes." The audio cuts. No one speaks. The silence is thicker than before, loaded with outrage and disbelief. Alicia breaks it. "Officer Lawson?" she says, voice like glass. "What profile exactly was I fitting?" Lawson lurches halfway up from his chair, words spilling out without thought. "Your Honor, I didn't realize you—" "Sit down," Alicia orders, not raising her voice, not needing to. It lands like a hammer anyway. "You will answer questions when asked by counsel, not on impulse." He drops back into his seat. Harris steps forward and sets a bound report on the clerk's desk, official seal stamped on the cover. "Your Honor, Internal Affairs completed an emergency review overnight," she says. "In the last 18 months, Officer Lawson has conducted 11 traffic stops that match nearly identical criteria." She reads from the report. Late-night stops of high-end vehicles. Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, Tesla. In every case, the driver was black, professionally dressed, with valid documentation. 8 of those stops resulted in arrests for alleged stolen vehicles or fraudulent paperwork. All 8 arrests were later dismissed, no charges pursued. She flips a page. No internal discipline followed any of those incidents. Lauren rises, her voice stronger now. "Your Honor, that establishes a consistent pattern of racially biased enforcement and misuse of authority." Harris continues reading, relentless. "Additionally, Lawson's personnel file previously contained 3 formal complaints over the last 2 years, 2 alleging excessive force, 1 alleging racial profiling and falsified narrative in reports." Alicia asks, "And the status of those complaints, Detective?" She knows, but she wants it spoken into the record. "All 3 were erased from his file roughly 2 weeks ago." Harris answers. "They were removed by Lieutenant Harold Benton without routing them through the required review board. That is a direct violation of departmental policy." "Who authorized those deletions?" Alicia presses. "Lieutenant Benton alone," Harris says. "He is now under investigation for obstructing oversight and tampering with official records." The gallery erupts again. Phones out, thumbs flying, reporters already composing headlines in their heads. The bailiff fights for quiet once more. Alicia waits it out. When the room finally settles, she turns to Lawson. "Officer Lawson, you charged me with impersonating a public official while I was driving home from my office." Her voice stays cool. "Do you know which file I had been reviewing immediately before that drive?" Lawson doesn't answer. He can't. He just stares, eyes glassy. Alicia lifts a folder from the bench and holds it up so everyone can read the label. "State of Georgia versus Derek Lawson," she announces. "Your case." She sets it down carefully. "You arrested the judge assigned to hear your excessive force matter, fabricated a crime, and did so in line with a documented pattern your chain of command helped conceal. Her tone never rises. I have heard enough. Based on the evidence presented regarding Mr. Miller and the documented pattern, I find you liable for excessive force in the case of Deshawn Miller, Alicia says. The body cam footage and testimony are overwhelming. This was not an isolated lapse, but consistent behavior. Lawson's head drops onto his folded arms. A broken, strangled sob slips out, echoing off the wood. No one rushes to comfort him. No one objects. Alicia continues without slowing. Additionally, I am formally referring your actions from last night to the District Attorney for Criminal Review under 18 U.S.C. Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law, and under Georgia Code 16-1023, False Imprisonment by a Law Enforcement Officer. She turns slightly. Sergeant Michelle Vargas, your silence and approval on that stop constitute supervisory failure and failure to intervene. You are referred to Internal Affairs for investigation and discipline. Lieutenant Harold Benton? She says, voice projecting toward the back where he was earlier. You will answer to the District Attorney regarding obstruction of justice and alteration of official records. Then she addresses the room at large. This court operates on evidence, not stereotypes, on law, not personal bias. Officer Lawson, you revealed who you truly are when you believed no one with authority was watching. Today, you are seeing what accountability looks like when the system finally turns inward. She brings the gavel down once. The sound is sharp, final, almost surgical. Outside, chaos waits. Cameras swarm the courthouse steps. Reporters cluster around a hastily erected podium where Captain Avery stands, shoulders squared, trying to look both authoritative and contrite. The Fulton County Police Department treats all misconduct allegations seriously, he begins. Effective immediately, Officer Derek Lawson is suspended without pay, pending full criminal investigation. Microphones lean closer. The questions start flying. Captain, was Judge Monroe targeted because she was overseeing Lawson's case? Was this intimidation? A reporter calls from the back. Avery doesn't dodge. We are actively examining whether last night's incident constitutes retaliation against a judicial officer and potential obstruction. If so, federal charges are likely. The FBI's Civil Rights Division has been notified. Another voice. What about the 11 similar stops Internal Affairs cited? Is this systemic? Avery nods grimly. We are launching a comprehensive review of all Lawson's stops over 3 years. Any individual who believes they were subjected to misconduct is urged to contact Internal Affairs directly. Avery adds. More questions hammer him. About Benton, about Vargas, about racial bias. He answers carefully, knowing every word will replay on nightly news. Regardless of spin, the damage is huge. Rebuilding public trust will be measured in years, not press conferences. Around the corner, away from the cameras, Jason O'Reilly slips toward the employee lot, trying to make himself small. Officer O'Reilly. He stops. Alicia stands near her reserved parking area, robes still on, expression calm. His stomach drops. Your Honor, he says quickly. You were at the scene last night? She notes. He nods, shame flushing his face. I'm sorry I didn't intervene, he blurts. I froze. I wanted to stop it. You didn't stay frozen, she interrupts gently. You brought the footage to Internal Affairs. That took a different kind of courage. Tears prick the corners of his eyes. This isn't the response he expected. He thought she'd demand why he didn't step in, why he didn't push back, my dad used to say. Jason murmurs, be the kind of cop people need, not the one they're terrified of. After last night, I couldn't just pretend I hadn't seen it. Alicia squeezes his shoulder. Your father raised you right. This department needs officers like you more than ever. It's going to get rough, she warns him. Some colleagues will call you a snitch. Some will shut you out. Jason nods. He's already felt it. But you'll be able to sleep, she continues, and you'll build a career you won't be ashamed to look back on. He nods again, firmer this time, walks to his car, and stands a little straighter as he closes the door. The choice has been made. 1 week later, fallout ripples through the city. Lawson is terminated from the department, marched out of the building, then booked on federal civil rights charges under Section 242. The magistrate sets bail at $50,000, but the prosecutor argues he's a danger, not a mere risk to flee. The judge agrees, and Lawson stays in custody while he waits for his own trial. The irony, that he now sleeps in a cell he once filled, is lost on no one. Sergeant Vargas is hit next. 30-day suspension without pay, stripped of her stripes, reassigned to basic patrol with a long probationary tail and mandatory bias training. One more serious complaint, and she's finished. Lieutenant Benton gets a closed-door choice: resign quietly with partial benefits or get fired for cause and lose his pension entirely. He chooses early retirement, but his enhanced supervisory payout disappears. Roughly $800 a month gone for the rest of his life. The FBI announces a formal pattern and practice probe into the Fulton County Police Department's Traffic Enforcement Unit. Civil Rights Division agents start combing through years of data, complaints, and camera footage. A consent decree is suddenly a very real possibility. Federal oversight, mandated reforms, metrics for bias and accountability. The department's old way of quietly burying files and protecting its own is no longer sustainable. Every officer feels the weight of that shift, whether they admit it or not. 2 weeks after the hearing, Alicia sits in her chambers as Chief Dalton and his deputy take the chairs across from her. Both look uncomfortable in civilian suits instead of uniforms. Judge Monroe, Dalton starts, on behalf of the department, I want to apologize personally for what happened to you. Alicia raises a hand. Chief, apologies without structural change don't matter. Here's what will. She slides a stapled document across the desk toward him. Dalton scans the list. It's exhaustive. Mandatory, proactive bias training for every sworn officer, not just remedial sessions for problem cases. A reworked stop-and-search protocol with clearer thresholds. An independent civilian review board with actual teeth. Overhauled body cam policy. No discretionary shut-offs. Third-party audits on any malfunction claims. An internal affairs oversight panel with community advocates holding equal voting power. Public quarterly reports breaking down traffic stops by race, gender, and outcome. Real transparency, not PR talking points. Dalton exhales, jaw tight. Judge, some of this needs city council approval and new budget lines. I can't just sign. Then go get the votes, Alicia says evenly. And the funding. Or I can forward every bit of this file to the DOJ and formally ask for a consent decree. Your call. Dalton studies her, sees no bluff. We'll need 6 months, he says finally. 4, she counters. And I want written progress updates delivered to my chambers every month. Dalton hesitates, then nods, effectively signing his department up for a very public transformation. When he and the deputy leave, the door closes with a soft click. For the first time since that night on the highway, Alicia allows herself a small, tired smile. She didn't just survive what Lawson did. She turned it into leverage. The system is slow and stubborn, but today, it moved. A few days later, in the courthouse hallway, Alicia heads toward the exit when she hears, Judge Monroe? She turns to see Deshaun Miller standing there, clean-cut, backpack slung over one shoulder, looking older than he did on the stand. Maybe it's just the way he carries himself now. I wanted to say thank you, he says, for what you did, for me, and for everybody else. He lifts a folded paper. You had my arrest record expunged, he says. It's like it never happened. Alicia nods. Because you didn't do anything wrong, she answers. The record should match the truth. I'm at community college now, Deshaun adds, a little shy but proud. Studying criminal justice, thinking about law school, maybe prosecution. Alicia's smile widens, warmer. Good. We need prosecutors who understand what it feels like on the other side of the badge. She reaches into her briefcase and hands him a business card. If you need a recommendation or an internship placement down the line, call my chambers, she says. Deshaun's eyes widen. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. He walks away, shoulders squared, a little more hope stitched into his future. Alicia watches him go, letting herself feel that small, bright piece of what her job can be when the system actually works. 3 weeks later, in internal affairs, Harris flips through a new application. Officer Jason O'Reilly wants a slot as a probationary detective in her unit, youngest candidate they've ever had. She calls him in, sits him opposite her desk, and doesn't bother softening the questions. "You understand IA isn't exactly beloved around here?" she asks. "We investigate our own. That makes us unpopular fast." Jason shrugs lightly. "Someone has to do it," he says. "And I know what happens when nobody does. Why put yourself in the crosshairs?" Harris presses. "Why not just keep your head down, write tickets, stay invisible?" Jason answers without hesitation. "Because I already know what it feels like to watch something wrong and stay quiet," he says. "I don't want to be that officer again." Harris studies him, sees the resolve beneath the nerves, and finally nods. "You're hired," she says. "Probationary eye detective, 6 months. Don't make me regret this." 2 months into the new role, he's juggling his own case files, scrutinizing traffic stops, interviewing witnesses, confronting officers who glare at him in the hallway afterward. The silent treatment in the locker room intensifies. Conversations die when he enters. Somebody calls him rat under their breath. He hears it, lets it hurt for a second, then remembers Alicia's words and his father's voice. He keeps going, one investigation at a time. He helps drag the culture a little closer to honest. One evening, at home, Alicia sits curled into the couch next to Marcus, a glass of wine in hand, a rare slice of quiet in a month of storms. "You okay?" he asks softly. "Not Judge Monroe. You." "Alicia okay?" She thinks before answering. "I'm exhausted," she admits, angry still. "But, okay, we lit a fuse that actually LE'd somewhere. The department's changing slowly. That's more than I expected when I sat in that cell." Marcus squeezes her hand. "What you did in that courtroom, it was never just about you, was it?" She shakes her head. "No, it was about every person pulled over on a dark road who knows something's wrong but has no leverage to stop it. I had leverage, so I used it." She knows there will be appeals, complaints, late-night emails dripping with resentment. She also knows she wouldn't change a thing. "There'll be blowback," Marcus says. "From cops, from unions, from politicians who prefer things quiet. I'm counting on it," Alicia replies, a tired grin tugging at her mouth. "Change without resistance isn't real change. We started something. That's enough for tonight." She leans her head on his shoulder. For a few minutes, the cases on her desk and the headlines on her phone can wait. Final scene. Late afternoon light slants through the narrow windows of Alicia's chambers as she works through a new stack of files. The justice system doesn't pause just because one officer got exposed. A knock sounds at the door. "Come in," she calls. Detective Jason O'Reilly steps inside, now wearing the plainclothes badge of internal affairs instead of patrol blues, a folder in hand. "Detective O'Reilly," she says. "Congratulations on the promotion." "Thank you, Your Honor," he replies. He sets the folder on her desk. "Preliminary report on Officer Jackson like you requested." She takes it. "How's the work treating you? Still finding your balance?" He exhales. "It's tough. Some guys won't even look at me. But I'm sleeping a lot better than I did after that night on the highway." Alicia nods. "That's what counts," she says. "This job isn't about being liked. It's about being right." Jason smiles faintly, nods, and steps back toward the door. "Keep doing it well," she adds. "The department needs you exactly where you are." After he leaves, Alicia opens the file, scanning new allegations against another officer. Different name, same patterns. She feels the familiar fatigue, the familiar determination. The work didn't end with Lawson. It never will. But now, there are more people on the inside willing to push back. That night, as she heads to the parking garage, Alicia walks past her Mercedes and pauses. The scratches near the driver's door handle are still there, small, jagged scars in expensive paint from the night Lawson slammed her into the metal and snapped the cuffs too tight. The dealership offered to buff them out, repaint the panel. She told them no. Some reminders deserve to stay visible. She runs her fingers lightly over the damaged strip. Not with pain now, but with clarity. Those marks are a record, too, of what the system allowed, of what she endured, and of what she refused to let slide. She unlocks the car, slides behind the wheel, and starts the engine. The same stretch of interstate lies between the courthouse and her home, but tonight it feels different. She's different. The badge on the other side of the window won't mean the same thing anymore. As she merges onto I-85, the city unfolding in front of her, Alicia thinks about Deshawn heading to class, about Jason opening case files, about future lawyers who'll read State v. Lawson in textbooks. They'll see the citations, the procedural notes, the appellate history. They won't feel the cold bench of holding or hear the click of cuffs, but maybe they'll understand, at least a little, what it costs to push a system toward its own ideals. Marcus is waiting when she pulls into the driveway, porch light already on. He opens the door before she reaches it, as always, like a small ritual that anchors her after long days. "Rough one?" he asks. "They're all rough," she says, but she's smiling. Today felt worth it. He kisses her forehead. "That's all I need to hear. The world outside can rage and resist. Inside this house, she's just Alicia, not Your Honor." Later, as she stacks tomorrow's files in her bag, she glances at the robe hanging near her closet. Heavy black fabric, same as always, but it feels heavier now, carrying more stories than statutes. She thinks of Lawson, of Vargas, of Benton, of every officer who will sit straight in future briefings because they know internal affairs actually mean something. Justice is slower than it should be, messier than people want, but it's moving. The system won't fix itself overnight. There will be new cases, new names, new headlines. There will be nights when Alicia goes home furious, heartbroken, or both. But she has seen what happens when someone with power refuses to look away. She's seen what one accurate record, one undeniable video, one judge committed to the truth can set in motion. That knowledge is fuel. She turns off the lamp in her chambers, the room sinking into shadows, and closes the door behind her. The courthouse will sleep for a few hours. Justice won't. Neither, if she's honest, will she, not fully. But that's the bargain she accepted with the robe. The scratches on her car, the files on her desk, the people in her courtroom, they're all part of the same story. And she's nowhere near done writing it. Lesson 1. When power isn't enough to protect you. If you are in your late 60s or 70s, you have seen America change its clothes many times. You watched the marches, the court decisions, the promises that things are different now. And yet, on a cold Georgia night, a black woman driving her own Mercedes was slammed against her car, handcuffed, and tossed into a cell, even though she was a sitting Superior Court judge. For many of you, this feels painfully familiar. You remember friends turned away from restaurants, neighbors stopped and searched for no reason but the color of their skin. Alicia Monroe's story reminds us that titles, money, and education do not always shield someone from prejudice. The lesson for our generation is simple and hard. We cannot assume the struggle for fairness is finished just because some of us made it farther than our parents ever dreamed. Justice still needs watchful eyes, even from those who are tired and have already lived through one lifetime of battles. Lesson 2. Change starts when someone refuses to look away. Another lesson sits quietly inside this story. Courage often comes from unexpected places. Think of the young officer, Jason O'Reilly, standing on the edge of that traffic stop. He didn't shout, he didn't fight, but he went home with a knot in his stomach and chose to bring the truth to internal affairs. Then came Detective Harris, Captain Avery, and even federal investigators, each one deciding, "Not this time. We're not sweeping this under the rug." Many of you know what it means to keep your head down, to protect a job or a pension. You also know the price of silence. Monroe used her robe, her knowledge of the law, and her calm voice to turn her own humiliation into a spotlight on a broken system. But she could not have done it alone. Real change always takes a chain of people choosing conscience over comfort. Lesson 3. Lasting reform is slow, but it's the legacy we leave. At our age, we understand that progress is less like a fireworks show and more like a slow sunrise. After Lawson's fall, policies began to shift. Body cameras that cannot simply be turned off. Honest data on traffic stops. Real consequences for supervisors who hide complaints. Young people like Deshawn, the teenager once pinned to the pavement, now walk into college classrooms thinking about law school instead of carrying an arrest record. Jason moves from patrol to internal affairs, choosing the harder path so future families might feel safer on the highway at midnight. And Judge Monroe leaves the scratches on her car as a reminder that the work is not abstract. It is written on real bodies and real lives. For those of us who worry about the world our grandchildren will inherit, the lesson is this. We may not see perfect justice in our lifetime, but by insisting on honesty, by supporting those who tell the truth, we help bend the road a little closer to what America promised us long ago. Friends, after walking with Judge Alicia Monroe through that long night on the highway and into the bright, unforgiving light of the courtroom, I'd love to hear from you. Do you believe stories like hers can truly push our justice system to change? Or does real reform have to start somewhere else? At the ballot box, in our neighborhoods, in our own families? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Tap the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can keep learning, reflecting, and standing up for what's right together.